Hogwarts Legacy has a pretty good chance of being the single biggest game release of 2023. And this video is pretty simple. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the game. I watched basically every piece of content that has come out officially for Hogwarts Legacy thus far, hours of gameplay, every single trailer, and I even dove into the depths of some of the fan theory posts. So in this video, I can tell you not only the intricacies of the combat system, because, oh my god, the combat system has a ton of depth to it, but even beyond that, just get into why some users are genuinely concerned for Hogwarts Legacy. But let's start with the important part. Hogwarts Legacy is a true open-world action RPG. You see that castle right there? You can explore it, literally all of it. The devs have made it very clear in the marketing that Hogwarts Legacy is not going to be a game that holds you back. You're going to kick off the game by creating your own character, choosing your house, but shortly thereafter, the map will fully open up to you. It was described like a Bethesda open world moment, where you can just go wherever you want once you hit that point in the game. And of course, this map is going to include all of Hogwarts. The castle and the school in its entirety is explorable, but also a ton of content in the surrounding areas, such as with Hogsmeade, which is going to be a nice little village that is found just outside of Hogwarts, or even things like the Forbidden Forest, which is a more spooky area. But of course, Hogwarts Legacy is also an RPG. The degree of choice and consequence in the actual questing isn't super clear yet. We've seen some dialogue choices, but mostly on the side content, not as far as the main questing goes. But we do know there's going to be big choices like choosing to pursue the path towards dark magic, or even just a general choice towards being good or evil. But where the RPG elements are truly going to come into play is with building out your character. There's going to be over 20 different spells you can use, ranging from utility to just maximizing your damage, which you can do to an extreme degree with some dark arts. But as we'll break down later in this video, you'll also notice that the spell combinations you can do can get pretty insane in Hogwarts Legacy. There are a ton of possibilities here. And all of this is going to be augmented by a full-fledged talent system that's going to provide boost to your character in all areas of gameplay, including the Room of Requirement, which basically allows you to go full-on Sims and build some furniture for your pets if you want to. So if you like RPGs, you're probably going to like Hogwarts Legacy, but do you like it enough to pay extra? Hogwarts Legacy is doing that thing where if you pay extra for the deluxe edition, which is going to be $10 more, you're going to be able to get 72-hour early access to the game, which is a fairly effective way of getting $10 more out of impatient gamers. So for current gen and the PC, it's going to drop on February 10th, but for most of you, you'll be able to play 3 days early with the deluxe edition on February 7th, but Hogwarts Legacy is coming to almost everything. It'll also be available for the Xbox One and PS4 on April 4th, and even on the Nintendo Switch on July 25th. And there's even some sizable PlayStation exclusives for this game, but we'll talk more about that later in this video. And something else we have to talk about are the controversies surrounding Hogwarts Legacy, because for some of you, you'll definitely want to wait for reviews before actually buying this game. But first, let's improve your life. New Year's is here, so you probably set some goals for yourself, and today's video sponsor, HelloFresh, can help you achieve them. HelloFresh lets you take control of your time and budget. They're going to deliver easy-to-follow recipes right to your door in a box just like this one. So to be honest, I always thought I just sucked at cooking, but apparently all I needed was some easy-to-follow directions, and all of the ingredients nicely prepackaged and provided, and I could actually make some pretty legit-looking meals. One of the few things I learned while getting my overpriced psychology degree is one of the best ways to stick to New Year's resolutions is to turn them into habits. And HelloFresh can easily make healthy eating your next habit. There's going to be over 35 recipes to choose from each week, and you can pick things like calorie smart, carb smart, or even swap in some extra proteins if you really want to maximize those gains. And since you watch this video now, you're in luck because there are even some limited time seasonal recipes available. So don't wait and form your New Year's habits today. You can use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGJUICE-January21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. Once you click, my description will live update to count up the purchases. One thing I'm pretty sure a lot of you know is that Hogwarts Legacy is taking place in the same universe as the Harry Potter movies and book series, but Hogwarts Legacy is going to be unique in that it's taking place before all of the Harry Potter content. Hogwarts Legacy will begin in the year 1890, while Harry Potter is over 100 years later in the 1990s. And yeah, there's those other movies, a few people like them, but even those take place a little bit later in the 1920s, nearly 30 years after the events of Hogwarts Legacy. Despite this, if you know Harry Potter, you'll find some familiar things here. The Weasleys are alive and well in Hogwarts Legacy, with one of the professors being a Weasley herself, and of course, much of Hogwarts itself will look very familiar, with things making a return like the greenhouse, or even those little chocolate frogs are going to be back, And of course, the big similarity between the two, J.K. Rowling monetarily benefiting from both of them. Yeah, that's where things start to get a bit controversial with this game. Hogwarts Legacy has made it clear that J.K. Rowling is not involved in the creation of the game. However, they have collaborated closely with her team on all aspects of the game to ensure it remains in line with the magical experiences fans expect. And of course, since J.K. Rowling owns the Harry Potter IP, she's going to make a royalty off of game sales. But even beyond that, the developer of Hogwarts Legacy isn't exactly well established. The game is being made by Avalanche Software, and if you look at their past games, it's not quite on the scale of Hogwarts Legacy. They definitely had a different genre they were appealing to in the past. So it's hype for Hogwarts Legacy continues to build, but then fans are also looking at the past games by Avalanche Software. There definitely are concerns. We'll dive deeper into this later in the video, but to give you some hope that everything is going to be a-okay. Avalanche Software, not to be confused with Avalanche Studios, has been working on Hogwarts Legacy for about 6 years now, and during that time, the studio has really undergone a bit of an overhaul. And I mean, if you've watched this far in the video, you've seen a fair amount of gameplay of Hogwarts Legacy. What they've shown off thus far looks quite impressive. The combat system alone took me quite a while to fully understand, and it definitely might be polarizing for some fans, but there is serious depth to this game. So with that in mind, let's dive a little bit deeper. If you're interested in one aspect of the game or another, I have timestamps down below for those appropriate sections. But first, let's take a look at the world we are entering into. And I guess the first question there is, can you even experience this world? If you're on PC, some of the recommended specs have been posted online. I'll leave a link to these right under the like button if you want to take a closer look. But just know, Hogwarts Legacy is a pretty good looking game, and if you want to run things maxed out, you're going to need top tier hardware to do so. Beyond that, we also know Hogwarts Legacy is going to have some ray tracing support for shadows, reflections, and ambient occlusion. But looking more specifically at the world and story we are entering into, our journey at Hogwarts is likely to kick off on September 1st, 1890. We could see this on one of the papers in one of the trailers, and as I mentioned, this is going to be a pretty notable difference compared to Harry Potter. In Hogwarts Legacy, there will be a notable technological difference. Of course, we are 100 years earlier compared to Harry Potter, and although many of the magic aspects are still there, electricity isn't quite as widespread. The game itself will be heavily focused on Hogwarts, and in the trailers and gameplay, this is what's getting lots of attention. But it is important to note that there is an extensive area outside of Hogwarts that you'll also be able to explore. Hogsmeade is the largest village that will contain a ton of different shops and some side objectives and quests to do, and even beyond that, there's going to be a variety of smaller hamlets scattered around in the area that will feature miscellaneous objectives to explore, even notable lore locations like the Forbidden Forest, but also just general wilderness areas. From some of the gameplay, we could see a variety of different biomes like swamps or even a coastal region. And those miscellaneous objectives that you can do in all of these locations aren't just busy tasks. The devs have actually described how miscellaneous tasks you find will actually expand your skills or even unlock some more of your ancient magic abilities. We'll get more into the ancient magic you possess later in this video, but in general, it seems like Hogwarts Legacy is one of those games that's going to reward you for finding and completing these side objectives. And as we're taking a look at some of these outside areas, the areas outside of Hogwarts, you'll probably also notice that you're able to use brooms. There's going to be a variety of brooms that you're able to unlock or even upgrade, but if flying around on an inanimate object is not your cup of tea, you also can get a bunch of flying mounts. Mounts are pretty cool in that you could actually run on the ground with them or take them up into the air to fly around, and there's going to be several choices here. There's a bit of a balance difference. Brooms seem to be a bit faster overall, but as you fly higher, brooms will actually have a boost meter that will drain as you're flying high, and you're going to be flying at a slower speed after you run out of boost. Where some of the flying mounts in the game are just going to be generally more consistent. Not quite as fast as a broom, but they're not going to have that same meter drain as you fly around. But if you don't want to deal with any of that, Hogwarts Legacy also has fast travel. The fast travel points in the game are unlockable as you walk up to them, and they're called Floo Flames. They're going to be a ton inside of Hogwarts for actually getting around the castle itself, but also a bunch in the outskirt regions. But of course, Hogwarts is definitely the star of the show here. There's going to be a considerable amount of content inside the castle itself. One of the big selling points of the game is Hogwarts is going to be fully explorable. The devs have basically described how if you can see it, you can go there when it comes to Hogwarts. And there's even things like secret areas that can be accessed if you complete a certain puzzle or just learn how to access them. Many of the iconic locations from the movies or books have been recreated for this game. And these aren't just relying on the movies. The 5th floor bathroom, for example, is designed exactly as it was described in the books, even down to the point of having that same diving board. as well as of course we're going to have the common rooms for each of the 4 houses. You can see these partly in the movies, and you can see in Hogwarts Legacy they're going to have a very similar style. We've gotten to complete an extensive look at each of the common rooms for each of the 4 houses, that being Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. And beyond just looking absolutely incredible, they will actually serve some gameplay purposes. You're only going to be able to access the common room of the house you choose. You'll be able to choose whichever of the 4 houses you like at the start of the game, and the common room is going to be an area where you're able to meet some of the other students, some of which can potentially become companions or even gain some side quests. And it seems like common rooms will function as a sort of general area for intrigue where you can pick up different objectives. And just in a high level, Hogwarts is massive and very active. You're able to find students all over the place in this game, and from the gameplay we've seen thus far, there are a ton of different areas to explore and a ton of secrets to find there. In many ways, it seems like Hogwarts is going to be a character in and of itself in this game. But your time at Hogwarts isn't always going to be the same. The game features not only a day-night cycle, but also dynamic weather and seasons that are going to be tied to the overarching story. So basically, as you progress through some of the quests, you'll start to notice these seasons changing, and it can even become full-on winter at points. This, of course, is going to bring some changes to the world and landscape overall, but also smaller things like windows will reportedly be changing. And even some of the major holidays will be represented with decorations around, and perhaps even a celebration or two. Although, fortunately, the time of day won't be directly related to your class attendance. There's no being late to class as far as I can tell. But at the same time, yes, you are a student at Hogwarts, and you also must attend classes, which is going to bring us into the quest and story section of this video, although no spoilers. We're going to be joining Hogwarts as a 5th year student. Most of the other students at the school have been here for a while already, but don't worry because we're special. Our character has the unique ability of being able to manipulate powerful ancient magic. It seems like there's going to be some kind of event that we survive early on into the game before we even arrive at Hogwarts. So as we do arrive at the school, we're not just some random nobody, but we're the kid that can manipulate ancient magic and survive some deadly event. As we arrive, it seems like the overarching story or plotline is going to be figuring out what is causing this ancient magic to return, as well as there's going to be a looming threat of a goblin rebellion, and we're going to be working with Professor Fig to uncover the source of this threat. And although it does seem like there's going to be an underlying goblin threat plotline that we have to work to uncover, you also just have to show up to class because, yeah, you're a student at Hogwarts. Hogwarts Legacy is handling the class system in a pretty interesting way. Early on in the game, you're going to have to attend a variety of classes. Charms, defense against the dark arts, herbology, potions class, beast class, etc. And this is going to serve 2 functions. On one hand, it's going to teach you some of the early game skills and spells. For example, how to grow some of the plants that you'll be later using, some of the early game and introductory level spells, getting your first broom and how to fly it, or even how to tame your first pet. More or less, these classes will serve to teach you the tools to take on this world. But beyond this, these classes are also going to serve as the introduction into some of the major quest lines that will be associated with each of the professors you have. Many of the professors are known at this point. I'm not going to go into each of them in this video for the sake of time, but there's going to be some notable ones, like a Weasley is going to be one of the professors, but also Headmaster Black. He's going to be the great-grandfather of Sirius Black, who does appear in the Harry Potter movies, but in Hogwarts Legacy, Professor Black's going to be played by Simon Pegg, an actor very well known for his role in the hit show The Hippies. So classes in Hogwarts Legacy are going to serve this dual purpose of actual gameplay elements being shown to you, and it seems like there will be a variety of mini-games we are doing during these classes, but also just a general introduction into some of the major plot lines. Although classes won't end there, as it is also described how beyond the main quest classes, you can return to a variety of these classes to learn even further abilities or get further rewards. So basically, you're going to have side quests that involve you going to class to learn more things, basically how it works in the real world. In addition to some of the classes, there's going to be a variety of side assignments we can do, so we're able to catch up with some of the other 5th year students who are already quite a bit ahead of us. But also, since we are a late student edition at Hogwarts, we're going to get this magical field guide, which will almost serve as a cheat code compared to the other students. This magical field guide serves as the menu to some degree, but also it's the lore justification for some of the opportunities in the world popping up. And it seems like the magical field guide will actually turn us on to some of the secrets and puzzles at Hogwarts. But again, you can see it as a core part of the main menu system. And there's going to be a bunch of different challenges you'll be able to complete. And by completing these challenges, you're going to gain experience, which will help you become better at certain spells or develop other skills your character will have. And of course, during your stay at Hogwarts, you're going to meet a bunch of other students. Some of these will be side quest givers. A lot of the side quests we've seen during the gameplay are pretty simple, just a fetch quest here or there, nothing super substantial, but it does definitely seem like they're saving some of the best questing content for us to just experience ourselves. And even beyond some of those side quest givers, there's going to be 3 students at least that we know of that can potentially become our companions. And companions in Hogwarts Legacy are going to augment us in a larger way. The 3 companions that will be available are Poppy Sweeting of House Hufflepuff, who's going to be very independent and has a love for animals, Natsai Onai of Gryffindor, who's going to be an animagus, meaning she can transform into an animal, and Sebastian Sallow of Slytherin, who we know the most about. Companions will provide a variety of benefits. The typical combat benefits, where they'll be able to aid us in combat, as well as follow us around just for good company, but further, they'll expand our abilities somewhat and even give our character certain bonuses. It seems like what bonuses they give our character will be dependent on whatever their backstory is. Companions will also have their own quest lines. We see a fair bit of Sebastian Sallow's quest line, which will involve us trying to save his twin sister, Anne. Anne was seemingly cursed by some dark magic and is now in a state of constant pain. And during the side quest with Sebastian, we're going to work to try and fix her and even delve into dark magic ourselves, or at least we'll have the option to. The dark arts in Hogwarts Legacy are going to be a viable path we can pursue. Not a ton is known as to exactly how this will unfold, but we do know in the Sebastian Sallow questline, you're going to have to make a choice to either use dark magic for yourself or have Sebastian Sallow use it instead. It seems like there's this real moment where you have to either decide to have him use it for us to use it. And of course, if we use it, we'll start down the dark arts path. And overall in Hogwarts Legacy, we do know there's going to be a variety of forbidden spells we can gain access to, these being particularly powerful with large cooldowns, but also of course being forbidden, so our professors will probably not approve. But one aspect of Hogwarts Legacy that isn't entirely clear, at least as of right now, is how much choice and consequence there is going to be within the quests. There are of course going to be dialogue choices, and in general, you have options of being more agreeable or more mean to some of the characters, at least as far as we've seen, but this has really only been on some of those simpler side quests, and really the fetch quest side quests that have been shown off. And as far as it comes to the overall story, it's not really clear how linear or non-linear this will be, how much of an impact our choices will actually have, or even just the choices of which of the major houses you choose to align with. I know though, that aspect of the game isn't too well known right now. We do know many of the RPG mechanics that will be available when building and creating our own characters in this world. Like all great RPGs, right at the start of the game, you'll be able to create your character, and there are a variety of options to choose from. You'll be able to pick your skin tone, hairstyle, and even your hair color. Some of the hair colors are even a bit more on the fun side, as well as there's going to be a variety of more in-depth options, like the pitch of your character's voice, or even if you want to have glasses or scars on your character. You could really go full Harry Potter if you want to. Doesn't seem like the character creator has a full-on face sculpting depth, but it still does have a variety of structural face presets, so you'll have a decent amount of flexibility over choosing what you want, but it's definitely not as extensive as the character creator in some other RPGs. But also, right at the start of Hogwarts Legacy, you'll be able to pick your own house. At this time, it's not entirely clear how this will work. We have seen the famous hat sorting ceremony. We've seen this several times during the gameplay, but the devs have made it clear that you will have the final say in which house you go to. So perhaps there's just a menu somewhere in the game where you pick your own house, then you do get to visibly see the ceremony, but you know which house will be picked for you. And honestly, I think it would be kind of cool to have the option of leaving it up to the game to decide for you, or some kind of quiz depending on what choices you make that will sort you into a certain house. And actually, that kind of is a thing already. It's not directly in Hogwarts Legacy, but right now you can go to wizardingworld.com. On here, you're able to take a quiz where it'll actually assign you both a house and a wand. And the devs have made it clear that on launch, you're going to be able to link your wizardingworld.com account with your WB Games account and import your Hogwarts Legacy house and wand choices into the game, which is pretty cool. So if you want a very slight jumpstart into Hogwarts Legacy, you can go to wizardingworld.com and actually take this quiz. Although beyond this, it's not even really clear how much of an impact the different houses will have on your entire playthrough. Obviously, you're going to gain access to your own house's common room, and you'll only be able to access your house's common room. But beyond that, we don't really know how different your experience will be depending on which house you choose. Hogwarts Legacy is also going to feature 4 different difficulty modes, although you can switch between these difficulty modes at any time. You'll have the typical options of an easy, medium, and hard mode, but there's also going to be a story mode for those of you that just want to experience this world without much threat or challenge. And it's even described on one of the FAQs that if you do play in story mode, some of the in-game challenges will be impossible to fail. What has been one of the pretty big surprises around Hogwarts Legacy is the Room of Requirement. This is functionally going to be like a player home that you are able to fully customize. There's going to be a variety of buildable objects you can place in the Room of Requirement. Some of these will serve in-game purposes, others are just cosmetic, but there's quite a bit of customization with even just placing these. You could place them almost anywhere you want, and you can even do things like resize them, rotate them, and change their color, as well as their overall themes you can apply to your rumor requirement to make it look a bit differently. The rumor requirement overall is almost going to serve as a hub for your crafting tables and plants. Plants will need to be grown, and in some of the gameplay, we've actually seen real-world timers on these plants. This immediately led to a lot of concerns in the community. Some fans wondering, is this almost like a mobile game-esque system where you're able to pay money to have the in-game timer go faster? But the devs have remained adamant that there are no microtransactions in Hogwarts Legacy. We'll talk more about this later. And the real answer is we don't know a ton about the plant timers and how exactly they work. It could actually just be a system that's pretty similar to how things work in Fallout, where there is a real-world timer, but perhaps you can progress this quicker by just sleeping or doing something else. And a variety of similar mechanics are being implemented for crafting your own potions as well. You're going to have a variety of clothing options to choose from in Hogwarts Legacy. The gear you wear will have different properties, bonuses for both offense and defense, but your clothing will also have traits assigned to it, and that will give you certain bonuses for your character. The devs have described that for some of the gear you find, you won't actually know what it does. You're going to have to return to the rumor requirement and use the identification station to find out what that gear's abilities are. And over time, as you play the game, you'll even unlock a bit more around this. You can create higher tiered crafting tables like the loom that will allow you to alter the traits of each piece of gear. So you'll have pretty free freedom over what you wear. You can just assign the best traits to your best looking gear or whatever your favorite is. So don't worry, the devs have already planned ahead with a bit of a transmog system. Although another benefit of the rumor requirement are pets. In Hogwarts Legacy, you'll be able to get not only mounts, but also a variety of pets you'll take care of. It seems like with some of the pets in the game, you can just get them in a fairly innocent way, getting an egg of them somewhere. But there's also going to be side objectives where you can save some of the beasts in Hogwarts Legacy from poachers that are hunting them. And once you save them, you'll place these pets in a new segment of the rumor requirement known as the menagerie that almost takes you to an outdoor area. And these aren't just fun, you have to actually take care of your pets. It's described that this is a legit component of the game. You're going to have to feed your pets and develop relationships with them to maximize their benefits. Over time, you're able to unlock things that will automatically feed them, but it seems like at least early on, you're going to have to do that yourself. Some of the pets seemingly will be able to become full mounts that you can use later on, but some other pets will actually have the benefit of dropping magical ingredients you'll need for some of the other crafting recipes in the game. So it seems like pets are not only just going to be a cool thing, like, oh yeah, you're saving animals and able to play with them, take care of them, but you'll also gain some benefits for yourself, like perhaps some rarer crafting ingredients. There is an owl post option in the menu. This will likely come into play at some point in the rumor requirement or with your pets. We've seen a couple of owls in the gameplay, sometimes in common rooms, but as of right now, we don't really know what the owl post or what owls will actually be doing in the game. Another thing that the devs never really gave us a full look at is the skill or talent system. In Hogwarts Legacy, skills are going to be known as talents, and it seems like those would be skills or almost perks you can unlock for your character. The only time we got a real look at these was when we got the outer menu, where you could see all of different categories of talents, as well as under them how many different available options there are. So we could see there's going to be 5 different talent trees, and the ones we know about are core, stealth, and room of requirement. The final 2 trees are unknown at this time, as well as you will have an overall character level that will seemingly be tied to this. You'll gain talent points by just completing in-game activities, some of those challenges that pop up, as well as side objectives that we mentioned earlier, or even going to class. And again, the exact talents and how this all flows together isn't exactly known. It seems like it'll be a familiar perk or skill system. Advance your talents in the combat tree and you'll deal more damage or unlock new abilities with some of your spells. The rumor requirement talents will likely be how you get some of the higher end crafting tables like the loom. And the devs have described overall how with talents you can become much more powerful in one aspect of the game versus another, like becoming really good with plants or just a full glass cannon of damage with very little on the defensive side. But speaking of spells, that brings us to the incredibly interesting and pretty in-depth combat system that is coming with Hogwarts Legacy. In Hogwarts Legacy, there's going to be a variety of tools you can use to boost yourself up in combat. Talents and clothing will kind of be the background or passive effects on your character, augmenting some of your stats and your skills to be even a bit more powerful. But in a more active sense, you're also going to have things like potions and plants. Potions will appear in 2 places on your HUD. First off, you're going to have this full menu wheel where you can pick from all kinds of various tools. On this wheel, you can see some of the plants or potions, and when selecting one, it'll become assigned to this slot right next to your minimap. And it seems like the way this will work is at any given point, you're going to have this one active use potion that's going to be here in the bottom left corner. You'll use this on command like you have in many other games. Some of the things they've shown off that this potion could do is buffing your protective stats or even giving you a shorter cooldown for your spells. But beyond that active use potion, there's also going to be a health potion that is also always going to be on your HUD and seemingly will always have a hotkey assigned to it. You can see right here next to your health bar, there's going to be a little potion icon with a number, and these are just health potions that will also always be available. So at any given point, you could use one of two potions, either a health potion or one of these other active use potions. As of right now, it's not really clear if there's going to be a variety of health potions or just one type that has different levels to it, but alternatively, there also are going to be a bunch of different plants the players can assign to the active slot and use on command. We've seen a bunch of different plants like the mandrake seeds that you could pull out to briefly stun enemies. Well, there's even things like plant mines you could place down so when enemies get near them they explode, and even plants that will act as little turrets to help you in combat. But also, Hogwarts Legacy is a Souls-like, at least kind of, because the game also does feature a dedicated dodge or dash key. Dodging, or at least rolling to dodge attacks from your enemies, is definitely a thing in this game. We've also seen a magical dash in some of the gameplay. I would speculate that the dash is perhaps an upgraded version of the dodge. But spells are also a really big part of combat, and there's going to be 4 different types or categories of spells you can use. You're going to have this general attacking spell. This will basically just be like a basic auto attack, nothing special. It's going to damage enemies as you hit them, and you could actually intermingle this spell with some of the other combos. This little blue bar on the HUD is your ancient magic. This is going to fill up as you take down enemies, and when it does fill up, you're able to use an ancient magic attack, which is almost like an ultimate attack. We've only seen it a couple of times in the gameplay. Honestly, the devs haven't explained too much about it, but it seems like this is something we were able to advance with talents, and perhaps there's even different types of attacks we could assign here. But in general, you'll fill this meter by taking down enemies, and if you string together larger combos, it'll fill even faster. And based on the HUD, it almost looks like you could store 2 ancient magic attacks at any given time. You'll have essential spells, which are going to be largely defensive and can be used to protect yourself in combat. It's not clear how many essential spells will be available, but the way this system will work is as you're in combat and an enemy is about to attack you, you'll have this little icon or symbol pop up around your head. This is going to be a cue for you to use an essential spell to either shield yourself or even reflect that attack that's coming at you. So it's almost like a counter or a parry for melee combat based games. But as this little icon pops up, you know, okay, I have to hit the triangle button, at least on the controllers, and this will put up my shield so I'll be protected momentarily, but the timing is pretty important there. And this alert symbol that pops up on you will take a different form depending on the type of attack that's coming in. But then we have the big one, which is going to be your slotted spells. These are a cornerstone of combat and going to feature many of the familiar spells you saw in the movies or even read about in the books of Harry Potter. There's going to be over 20 different slottable spells in Hogwarts Legacy, and these are color-coded per their type. So when you see a dark green one, you'll know it's an unforgivable, very powerful spell, but also when you see a red spell, you'll know it's an offensive spell, and so on. It seems like a big part of the spell combat in Hogwarts Legacy is going to be chaining spells together, getting those combos. So in the bottom right corner, you'll see you have this little 4 spell collection. Each of these 4 spells are easily used in tandem by just pressing a key. Most of the gameplay is controller based thus far, so that's what we know about best. And the way you cast a spell in Hogwarts Legacy is you hold down one of the triggers on a controller, and then you hit another key to cast one of the spells. And it's designed this way so you can relatively easily cast multiple spells in rapid succession, comboing them together or specifically using one spell after another to deal more damage. I don't know, you can kind of just rapid fire, throw everything at an enemy. Spells will also have cooldowns, so you have to put some thought into this. And described how you advance through the game, level up your character, you'll unlock more slots for this. So by late game, you're going to have the option to have 4 sets of 4 spell groupings. And the way you're going to use this, at least on controller, is by the D-pad. You hit up, down, left, or right on the D-pad, and you'll go to one of the other 4 slotted spells. And I think this is actually a pretty intuitive way to handle using a bunch of different spells in gameplay. It almost feels like you'll create little loadouts of 4 spells at a given time. Up on the D-pad may be your combat spells, while down on the D-pad may be some of your most powerful spells that have a long cooldown. So maybe you hit down, use all of your powerful spells, then go back to switching to up and use some of the quicker but offensive spells. And although that seems like this could be relatively complex, especially in the early game as you're getting used to it, at the same time, it does seem like it is a relatively nice design, having never played it myself, where you won't have to spend a bunch of time in menus configuring your spells. You'll do it once when you unlock some new spells, but then once you're in combat, you could easily switch between things. We have seen a ton of different spells in gameplay thus far, too many to list all of them in this video, but things like paralyzing enemies, manipulating the environment, or even just something as simple as invisibility. And we have seen how some spells will seemingly be multifunctional, having uses in combat but also utility uses during quests. Although enemies are a relevant factor in combat as well. Hogwarts Legacy will feature all kinds of different enemies, from large creatures to goblins to just other witches or wizards that will use their spells on us. We can see some gameplay of us getting tangled and stunned at one point, but some enemies are also going to use melee weapons. It's not totally clear if we're able to use the melee weapons also, but enchanted melee weapons are a thing in Hogwarts Legacy. And honestly, I think that could be kind of cool if we had the option to not only use spells, but also whip out a sword and just really go to town. And some of these enemies are going to have a bit of extra depth to them. Enemies will have their own characteristics as well as drop their own items, and depending on the enemy type, some spells may be less or more powerful against them. As well as you can see in the gameplay, enemies will also shield themselves, and this will tie back around to that spell color guide. So when you see an enemy in a certain colored shield, you'll know that you have to use that spell against them to break that shield. And if you really want to truly immerse yourself in the combat, the devs have also described how there's going to be options to turn off the minimap and many other HUD elements. Overall, the combat system in Hogwarts Legacy seems like it'll have an immense amount of depth. At points, it almost feels like it's going to be a full Souls-like with dodging and getting combos right, but at the same time, the devs have definitely described how via the difficulty options, they've made this fairly approachable. And as I discussed earlier in this video, you're going to have a bunch of classes that will gradually introduce you to all of these mechanics, so hopefully by the time you really need to use them all at once, you'll be fairly familiar with them. But then that brings us to the more confusing and controversial side of Hogwarts Legacy. Like all of the different versions and exclusive content behind those versions that this game has, or even just timed exclusive content for a certain platform. The additions and bonuses with Hogwarts Legacy are a fairly bizarre and just flat out confusing situation. I'll try and break them down here though. If you pre-order any version of the game, you're going to unlock the Onyx Hippogriff mount. It seems like this is largely just going to be a reskin of the Hippogriff. It looks like based off some of the gameplay we've seen, you unlock the Hippogriff mount relatively early in game, but if you pre-order it, you can get a different colored version. The Deluxe Edition is probably going to be one of the most popular editions of the game, and with this you'll gain 72-hour early access, the Thestral mount, which is a bit different, the Dark Arts Cosmetic Pack, as well as the Dark Arts Arena. And although that's a decent amount of content locked behind the Deluxe Edition, it couldn't just be that simple, because there's also a difference if you buy the physical Deluxe Edition versus the digital Deluxe Edition. If you buy the digital version, you will also get the Dark Arts Garrison hat, as well as a free next-gen upgrade. And yeah, that's legit, you only get this hat if you buy the digital version. If you go to a regular store and buy the game in person, you won't get this hat. The Thestral mount and the Dark Arts Cosmetic Pack are fairly self-explanatory. It's going to be yet another flying mount you can get. It's not totally clear if you'll be able to unlock a Thestral out of this, but it is somewhat implied by some past gameplay. And the Dark Arts Cosmetic Pack is just going to be a variety of other Dark Arts themed clothing you can wear. But the Dark Arts Arena is a fairly sizable piece of content that is locked behind the Deluxe Edition. It has been explained how in Hogwarts Legacy there's going to be several arenas you can participate in. These will almost function like a horde mode of sorts. You're going to fight against a ton of enemies that are attacking you, and there'll even be some unique challenges that pop up during the combat, and if you beat the arena, you'll unlock some kind of cosmetic item. So there'll be two other arenas in the game that everyone will gain access to, but you'll only get the Dark Arts Arena if you get the Deluxe Edition. And outside of any unique rewards that are likely tied to the Dark Arts Arena if you beat it, there also is one unique mechanic. And that is, if you are in the Dark Arts Arena, you're going to immediately gain access to some of the unforgivable spells. So while you are in the arena fighting against these enemies, you'll be able to use the Dark Arts spells. These won't stay on your character. Once you leave the arena, you'll lose access to them, but it basically seems like it'll be a fun way to try out some of the very powerful spells in the game that you otherwise would have to unlock via a specific set of circumstances. And even further, despite the fact that Hogwarts Legacy will reportedly have no microtransactions, you're you're able to buy the standard edition of the game and later upgrade to the deluxe edition or unlock all of these dark arts themed things if you want to. So even if you don't pre-order the deluxe edition, you can get this at a later time. It's almost like the game will feature a day one DLC that you can buy whenever you want. And finally, there is the widely disliked collector's edition. And although I'm going to highlight this, it doesn't even really seem like you can get it all that easily anymore. A lot of these have sold out already. It's going to include the deluxe edition of the game, so all of the benefits I previously mentioned, but also this ancient book that isn't really a book, you can't flip through the pages, it's a fake book, and a wand that you can place on top of the book and it'll float. There also is the box it comes in, a steel book for the game, which is definitely pretty cool, as well as this in-game robe. And when I said the box it comes in, that wasn't a joke. Like, they actually advertise the box it comes in as a part of the collector's edition, which really probably says all you need to know about a $300 collector's edition when literally the cardboard box is included as one of the big features of that $300 purchase. But yeah, the steelbook is pretty cool. Although speaking of prices, the game is also priced differently depending on a platform. If you buy this on a next-gen console, it'll be $10 more for $70 retail, although on PC it is only $60 for the base version. There's also some PlayStation exclusive content. There is a PS exclusive quest that will only be available on the PS4 and PS5 for 1 year. The quest got its own trailer, so we've seen a decent amount of it. It's about a haunted Hogsmeade shop. You're going to help the shop owner fix their haunting problem, and in the end, you're actually going to get the shop for yourself, where it's going to have discounted items compared to everywhere else in the game. So quite literally, buy the game on PlayStation, you'll get a shop that is better than anywhere else in the game. The quest overall honestly looks pretty cool and fun. If you're playing this on console anyway and you somehow have both next-gen consoles, it does seem like playing on PlayStation is better. Unfortunately, I don't have one, and I'm not buying an entire PS5 just to play this one quest. Sorry, WB. But there's some other PlayStation 5 exclusive features as well, mostly around the controller. The controller light bar will light up based on in-game events. There's also going to be haptic feedback depending on in-game events, and there is going to be adaptive trigger functionality tied to this game. There's definitely been quite a bit of frustration over the different versions and really the timed exclusive content, and it's not like it's a small thing, it's a fairly sizable thing that is timed exclusive, but that does transition us nicely into some of the other concerns around the devs and publisher of this game. Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment is the publisher of Hogwarts Legacy and has led some users to being a bit worried about how the game will be handled. They've released some pretty good stuff in the past, like the LEGO Skywalker Saga, Multiverses, or even Mortal Kombat 11, but this publisher has also had some big misses, notably Gotham Knights and Shadow of War. Gotham Knights just felt outdated on release, and Shadow of War is really the worst example. This was a game that was seemingly ruined by microtransactions, and it seems like this publisher was a big reason for that. So with Hogwarts Legacy, many have been concerned about something similar happening, especially when in some of the gameplay you start to see timers like this on plants. But they have remained adamant that there will be no microtransactions anywhere in Hogwarts Legacy. Although at the same time, we definitely can see some of the unfortunate influences of this publisher. We have exclusive quests, fairly major features locked behind a higher edition, and of course getting to play the game earlier if you spend more money. But there's going to be some concerns for the developers as well. The developers of this game are Avalanche Software and Portkey Games. Portkey Games was set up in 2017. They've only worked on Harry Potter games, which isn't a bad sign, but all of them have been mobile only. They worked on things like a Harry Potter version of Pokemon Go or even a Harry Potter puzzle game, and just really nothing that substantial. And it's a similar situation with Avalanche Software. They have a more substantial track record overall, but a lot of this has been Disney games that are targeted towards kids. And to be clear, this is Avalanche Software, not to be confused with Avalanche Studios, who are the developers of Just Cause. Yeah, it's very confusing. I had to do this segment of the video numerous times because I kept saying the wrong thing. And in general, it seems like Avalanche Software has made a very specific type of game. And if you look at their last game with Cars 3 Driven to Win, you can see how this is quite different than what we're hoping for or expecting from Hogwarts Legacy. There's some obvious concerns here. Hogwarts Legacy is a much larger game compared to pretty much anything else Avalanche Software has released, although there definitely is a but. The last game to come out from the studio was 6 years ago now, and it seems like the studio has gone through a relatively large overhaul. There's a bunch of additional developers, and there's a clear focus on AAA quality games now. And although there's a bunch of concerns over this developer and what Hogwarts Legacy will ultimately be, the reality is, as of right now, we don't really know. Maybe everything will be completely fine, maybe it won't be. Maybe their inexperience will show as you actually get the game, but that's why it's important for you to wait for a review before you play this one. And it is worth noting that the game has been delayed a couple of times now, which could be a good sign, or I guess a bad one. It was originally meant to come out in 2021, but it was later delayed to 2022, and of course then delayed again to its final release date of February 10th, 2023. And the last gen version and Switch version also got pushed back further. Until we get reviews, we don't really know again, but at the very least, the devs have shared a fair amount of relatively raw gameplay. Like, they actually invited influencers from the community, played the game with them sitting on a couch watching, and then uploaded that entire video to YouTube. There has definitely been a fairly large degree of transparency, which for me at least has quelled some of my major concerns. But at the same time, this would not be the first time marketing for a game looked really good and it still ended up having a launch disaster. At this point in time for Hogwarts Legacy, we have seen no gameplay of it on the Switch or last gen consoles. But yeah, that is your rundown on Hogwarts Legacy, what you can expect from the game, and if you like this video or just want to find out more, you can get subscribed. I'm planning full coverage of Hogwarts Legacy, hopefully I get a review code, that would be awesome. But if not, either way, I'll definitely be highlighting some of the big takeaways from other people's reviews, as well as just creating guides once the game actually releases. With that said though, hopefully as always you guys found this one informative or helpful. But with that said, as always again, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.